Hello and welcome to the Z-Man Show, where I couldn't be bothered to put together a set for this. 2019 ended up being a decent year for video games. I mean, sure, there weren't any all-time greats like Breath of the Wild, God of War, Mario Odyssey, The Witcher 3, Horizon Zero Dawn, Overwatch, Persona 5... Anyway, I've put together a list of my top 5 favorite games from 2019. And before we begin, there is one major ground rule that I have for my list. They have to be games that I've played enough to give them a fair shake. So, unfortunately, games like Death Stranding, Disco Elysium, and Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair, I just didn't play enough of them, so they're not going to make it to this list. Although Disco Elysium, in the couple of hours I played, is pretty good. So without further ado, these are my top 5 favorite games of 2019. Number 5. Boy, was I excited for this game. I played so much Crash Team Racing growing up, and this remake absolutely killed it. All the tracks from the original CTR were faithfully recreated, and they even included tons of tracks from Crash Nitro Kart that I had never even played. Adventure mode was fun, if not a little more difficult than I remember, and the amount of content being pumped into the game in the form of karts and character unlocks was incredible. Sure, it was placed into a weird shop format that Activision definitely wouldn't exploit. Oh, the reason this game isn't higher on my list is what Activision did. It's really scummy to add microtransactions into a game 2 months after its release, when it was too late to add it to the box's ESRB rating. That was about the same time that I stopped playing, as Wumpa coins felt like they were drip-fed on purpose. I did come back a couple times for the Grand Prix, which added new tracks and characters to the game, but those were also such a grind that it felt like they were pushing me to spend more money. But in spite of that, I had an absolute blast with this game, playing the story mode, racing online, and annihilating my friends. Because the racing is so tight, the mechanics are so fun to pick up, and the chaos of a great kart racer elevates the whole experience. This is probably my favorite kart racer on current consoles. Just sucks what Activision did. Number 4. This game was so close. This game was so close to being my favorite. It was so close to being an amazing game, but it fell short. Jedi Fallen Order is a mix of the exploration from Uncharted, the power gain and backtracking of Metroid Prime, and the combat of Dark Souls. And while the game doesn't do any of those elements as well as the games it derives from, mixing those elements with a good Star Wars story elevates the entire package. It's really cliche to say this, but you really do feel like a Jedi who is learning and growing, gaining new force powers, growing stronger, and becoming a force to be reckoned with. You might first face an enemy that you had a ton of trouble with, only to go back later and find them to be a cakewalk. That's the kind of empowerment that you want from an RPG. But what holds this back from being a better game is actually the build quality. It feels like this game needed just a few more months in the oven to achieve absolute greatness, but there was a new Star Wars movie coming out, so obviously we needed the game now. The targeting system is hit or miss, texture popping and load times between deaths is absolutely atrocious, and there are so many times that characters will just spawn in a T-pose for no reason. Despite its faults, Jedi was a game that I greatly enjoyed, and I can't wait to see where a sequel to this game will take us. Just let them finish the game this time. Number 3. Indivisible is a weird game. In most years, I don't think I would put this as one of the best games of the year, and I almost didn't this year. I was playing this game on and off for a while, enjoying my time. The art was gorgeous, and I loved the characters, with Ajna and Razmi quickly becoming 2 of my favorites right away. Sure, the combat was kinda simple, and the story wasn't anything spectacular, but I was having tons of fun exploring the world, gathering new allies, and tons of new power-ups that made traversal even more fun. But despite all that, I wouldn't have called this a great game. It was pretty good, but not one of my favorites of the year. But then it happened. The game got me. That's right, I teared up and eventually cried at the end of the game. I didn't realize how attached I'd gotten to some of these characters, and how proud I was of some of their growth. I had to reevaluate my experience and realize just how much fun I had playing this game. When a game can make you feel like this, it deserves that consideration. And that's why I ended up putting it at number 3. Number 2. If Indivisible made me cry, then Afterparty made me laugh. A lot. Quite literally, I was also in tears at the end of this game for a completely different reason. Night School Studios, the makers of Oxenfree, once again killed it with this game, taking the gameplay concepts of choice and consequence, kind of, but moving the tone into a hilarious direction. I mean, what other game asks you to outdrink Satan in order to save your soul? The game is funny and creative in its expression of hell, while also having you battle your own personal demons, and exploring a fascinating relationship between the two characters that you are controlling. But what really puts this game over the top is the twist at the end that had me in absolute stitches. Seriously, the last couple of sequences of the game have such an amazingly imaginative twist on hell's hierarchy. This game was good, but that ending pushed it to my second favorite game I played this year. Number 1. I already knew I really needed a new Fire Emblem game, like really bad. But what I didn't realize was how much I needed the combat of Fire Emblem mixed with the social link school time management of Persona. They basically combined two of my favorite things and made a ridiculously good game. Fire Emblem continued the franchise's legacy of fun, tactical, turn-based gameplay with new systems, new abilities, and new threats, while adding a school-based secondary phase that allows you to teach your students into the classes you want, as well as grow your relationships with them and with each other. This segment of the game was so engrossing to me that I would spend hours at a time playing the fishing minigame in order to get my professor rank up. I loved the characters, I loved the tactical combat, I really enjoyed the second half of the game where you get to see where the characters ended up and how the events of the war take their toll on everybody. Nobody's side is correct, and I love that. Was the middle of the game a little bit drawn out? Sure, but it didn't bother me. It was all more time to get to know and love your comrades. I thoroughly enjoyed this game so much that as soon as I was done with my first 50-hour plus playthrough, I had to start another one right away, which is why it's my Game of the Year. So those were my favorite games of 2019. Let me know down in the comments which ones I missed, and while you're down there, you might as well subscribe to the Z-Man Show, hit the bell icon so you're notified of future episodes, like one I'm doing soon about my most anticipated games of 2020. There's a lot of them. There's the first half of 2020 stacked. It's freaking so much. There's so much. So many games. I can't keep up.